This is Brian with ScreenFiles.com and Review. And what I'm looking at today is 2023's Sister Death, directed by Paco Plaza. Paco Plaza's first breakthrough feature was 2007's Wreck, which was a found footage style zombie movie. I barely recall its sequel, Wreck 2, and the sequel to that, Wreck 3 Genesis, though what I do remember was that the reasons behind the zombie outbreak began to change. In the first Wreck, it was primarily supernatural, or at least I should say it was implied to be supernatural. While in later movies, they kind of switched it a bit and made it more science orientated. In fact, I think it might have had something to do with a parasite. I'm sure Wreck 3 definitely had a parasite. Don't recall Wreck 2 though. Veronica, Paco Plaza's 2017 movie, was fine. It revolved around possession, though what's best about Veronica, by my reckoning, it's almost a stealth sequel to Sister Death. I don't know if that was actually planned that way though, but it is really clever and really interesting. What impressed me most about Sister Death is something that is fairly obvious when you think about it. Namely, it carried through with its themes and ideas once introduced. Which is to say, nothing that appears in a movie typically is there without a reason. And something that you introduce early on should play a role later on. It's kind of a variation of Chekhov's gun in that sense. What Sister Death does exceptionally well is that it will follow through with things it introduces. So everything you see at the beginning of Sister Death is relevant to the middle and end of Sister Death. It's the type of movie where you really have to pay attention to it. Because, as I said, things introduced early on will be paid off later on. And if you don't catch those earlier points, you're kind of missing out on what is a really excellent movie. Another thing that makes Sister Death so excellent is that, unlike other religious-themed movies like The Nun in 2018, as well as its sequel and the Conjuring movies for that matter, is that Sister Death uses no expository dialogue, which, once again, a lot of movies can't seem to do. It's not that expository dialogue in and of itself is bad. It's simply the idea, though, that they are telling when they should be showing. That's a mantra one needs to remember with movies. If you can, show, don't tell. Movies are a visual medium. Sound is important, particularly ambient sound and music, as well as, obviously, people's voices. But if a pivotal event is happening, it is always better to show it, if you can. So, Sister Narissa is our guide through the movie. What is revealed to her is at the same time revealed to us. This is not one of those movies where things happen and someone is telling you more about the thing that happened. It is so unusual to see a movie where events just flow. There's not someone explaining to you. There's no book that she discovers that tells her everything that's going on. Instead, what is new to us as a viewer is also new to her. We're both going through the movie at the same time, which is just not at all common. Now, that being said, if that is done badly, it creates a problem. Namely, there's crucial information that the viewer needs to better understand what's happening on screen, and it's missing. That can undermine a movie, because as much as I say show, don't tell, and I prefer to see things as opposed to having them told to me, having them told to me is better than nothing at all. And going back to movies like The Nun, its sequel, and The Conjuring, Sister Death is relatively gore-free. The thing is, though, it's gets its power from tension and atmosphere, and it manages to make ordinary things at points very creepy. For instance, there is a chair in Sister Death, which would probably end up being one of the more scarier things you see in movies. Once again, it's just a chair. The thing of it is, the way the chair is shot and the way Sister Narcissa responds to the chair makes it really foreboding and kind of scary. Though once again, it's just a chair. But the movie is atmospheric enough, is tense enough, that it gives it a weird life of its own. Another thing is that Sister Death almost plays like a companion piece to Guillermo del Toro's Devil's Backbone. Both The Devil's Backbone and Sister Death are very structurally similar. Devil's Backbone revolves around a mystery set within, I believe it was, a church that was also acting as an orphanage for young boys who had lost their parents during the Spanish Civil War. Conversely, Sister Death revolves around a convent, which is offering a home for girls, most of whom had lost their parents due to the Spanish Civil War. Sister Death begins with a black and white film clip of a bunch of people witnessing a miracle. We can't necessarily tell what that miracle is, though it seems to revolve around this young girl. This, for me, is probably one of the weaker parts of the movie. Now, it only lasts, I want to say, not even a minute or two. But the thing of it is, it looks to me like someone is trying to make modern film look old. And that kind of irritates me. I wish Paco Plaza would just look at old films and then treat his version accordingly. As I implied, it feels to me like someone got their hands on a copy of Adobe After Effects and tried to make film look aged. It doesn't work terribly well. As I said, it's very short, though I also found it somewhat distracting. In any case, the movie moves on, and a young sister, Sister Narcissa, arrives at this convent. Now, we learn also that Sister Narcissa was that young woman we saw earlier in the film. She's treated as if she's somehow exceptional and somewhat different than other people. And soon afterward, Sister Narcissa stumbles into a mystery revolving around this convent and the children within it. As I said, Sister Death is a great movie. Though I mentioned a few minutes ago the black and white film that opens the movie, I thought it was just overdone. There's another thing that happens in the movie that is out of character for the movie. It's not that it's bad, it's not that it ruins it, but it's an odd scene when you view it in the context of the entire movie. Though I'm not going to tell you what scene I'm referring to. Take a look at the movie, and I'm willing to bet you can tell me. And if you do find it, let me know in the comments. I think Sister Death would have done really well with a theatrical release, which it may have received somewhere in Europe, but certainly didn't receive it in the United States. And that's a pity, because it is not unlike movies like The Nun and some of the Conjuring films, though it is just more adult. It is more considerate of the intelligence of the viewers, unlike those movies. So I think it would have done really well. So, if you're not interested in seeing a creepy, well-made horror film that doesn't condescend to the viewer and doesn't involve excessive gore or violence, don't see Sister Death. Otherwise, check it out. It's really good, and it is currently on Netflix. This is Brian with ScreenFiles.com and Review. Do you agree, disagree? Let me know down below. And as usual, consider a like or follow. Peace.